Hello, everyone. Welcome to Influitive Live, and I'm thrilled to be here for a great panel session on advocacy in times of uncertainty. And I'm here with some very bright people from both Cengage and ADP. Talk about two industries and two worlds that have really been shaken up by the global pandemic, the education industry and HR, payroll, and taxes. I mean, talk about a real big change. So I'm really excited to hear about what we have going on here with these fine ladies. We have Shristi Shanka and Amy Fink from ADP. Hello, Shristi.
Hi.
And hello.
How are you?
Very good. Hello, Amy.
Hello. Hope everybody's doing good today.
Yeah. We also have Erica Messenger and Annie McQuaid from Cengage. Hello, Erica.
Hello.
All right. And Annie?
Glad to be here.
All right. Well, welcome. Just a little background about your Influitive Hub, how it all began, and maybe just start there and just see what are the primary use cases that you are using Influitive for.
Sure. So we started using Influitive about a year ago. I work on the onboarding retention side, and Erica works on the advocacy side. So we really wanted to find a bridge and a place to put those two worlds together. So it started out as new users with onboarding tips and tricks and really getting them rolling in our platforms. And then customers who were high usage could be potential advocates in our system and using them, testing the waters with social shares and seeing what they would do as advocates.
Great. Next up on ADP.
So we actually launched our hub a little over 5 years ago. The intent at that point in time was really focused on driving some referenceability, but what we found over the course of the last 5 years is we could leverage the hub in a lot of different ways. So now we've got a little bit of a different focus where we leverage it to enhance our clients' level of expertise around our products, around human capital management in general, and we also source it to get feedback from our clients in real time for user experience studies or even product design.
And Shristi, how big is your hub today with number of members?
We are a little shy of 7,000 client contacts.
Wow. And Annie, how about for Cengage?
Hoping to get there soon. We're at about 1,500.
All right.
Great numbers.
That's fantastic. So a lot has changed. We all know. We don't need to rehash all of it. It's quite a change that and that's why we're all here virtually versus not in Toronto for our live in-person session, which is unfortunate. So I want to get a little feeling of, has your hub changed and has members' attitude, interactions changed as well? So maybe Erica, you want to start with Cengage?
Sure. The short answer is yes. It's changed quite a bit. We recognized and realized about early to mid-March that things were changing rapidly in the education space, and the higher ed in particular, and schools were starting to shut down one after the other. So as we were looking at our hub, we realized we had this amazing opportunity to connect with real customers who were going through this in their daily lives. And we had this, we wanted to offer something to the space in the form of a free subscription to our products for all higher ed students. So in order to get that out quickly and to have the word of mouth go rather than a corporate announcement, we really leveraged the hub to get that message out to the market and to faculty and to students so that they could understand the offer, they could learn how to use the product very quickly, get themselves up and running, and really just let them invite other folks to the hub who needed that support in that moment. So it became a place where we could instantly get to our customers and understand what they were going through and help them out in a crisis moment.
Wow. Now, did Cengage have a free version of their product prior to this change, or did you have to, on a dime?
On a dime.
Oh my God.
On a dime. We opened up our courseware to all higher ed students so they could finish the semester strong, but we needed to get that out there, and we needed to have our advocates know that so that they could get that word out there for us too.
Wow. I mean, my wife's a teacher, and she talk about a change of her life and day to day, and just not the most technology savvy, and having to just immediately get thrusted into a virtual world with third and fourth graders. It was quite a change.
Yes, yes.
I think kind of on that note, and it's something we might talk about in a little bit, is we really used our Influitive Hub to gather insight from those instructors. So the ones that are high users that could teach those who, like you said, don't know technology as well. So really leverage those advocates to put together some great webinars and resources as quick as we could.
And what is the mix of students to instructors in your hub for membership?
We have a much smaller student hub right now, and that arm of our hub is actually run by our student advocate team. So they work with the students there and get the students out promoting on their own campus and making sure everyone has what they need, especially at the beginning of school to get started. And then Annie and I manage the faculty arm of our hub. So we have faculty all over the country, Canada, Puerto Rico. We have everyone in there who we can speak with, so yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amy, how about on the ADP side? How has things changed with you in your program?
Well, very similarly, we had to make changes on a dime. Our associates had to pivot quickly to focus on all the changing legislation, the CARES Act, the Paycheck Protection Program. So our associates had to create new content, new technology in order to meet these changes. So we used the hub to ask our advocates what they were needing, how we can help them. We were looking for also ways that we could not just help them professionally, but also personally, because of course everybody was struggling during this time, is still struggling. So we were also looking to be there as a, not only, you know, I'm saying it again, as a professional, but personal support as well. And Shruti, you wanna?
Yeah, I think, you know, we've been running this hub now for 5 years, so that we have a lot of contacts that are true friends. We've developed deep relationships with them. So it was really important for us to focus on kind of the emotional well-being as well. And as you can imagine, being a human capital management company, all of our practitioners that are client contacts within our hub were impacted in one way, shape, or form, whether it was personally, right, or professionally from a payroll perspective, benefits, you know, HR, everything changed in a blink of an eye. So we became very agile and applied all of the, you know, as technology was changing on the ADP side, once legislation came in, we were also making sure that our advocates were aware of what's changing in layman's terms, right? So it was not necessarily legal jargon per se, but it was how we could apply that technology and how clients could then take that back to their organization and figure out what their plan was as well.
It's a lot of communication, a lot of education to your customer base, your membership. Was there a lot of visibility of your program before all of this change inside your organization, or did all of a sudden people from out of the woodworks are coming to you saying, we need your help?
So that's a really good question. I think over the last 5 years, we've built a pretty solid name for our hub within our national account space. So what we saw actually happen was we were one of the first channels they came to help get the message out. So we had a lot of publications go out on, you know, our ADP.com site, but we had that same content within our hub. So it was, so our client contacts could pull it down on demand when they were ready to consume that data.
And we actually created a channel.
Yes.
Right, and we created a channel just for COVID-19, so they know exactly where to go and to pull down that information, whether it be a webinar or a questionnaire or just information that they could use.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one other thing that I'll highlight, because we have such a strong base of advocates within our hub, we were able to turn and lean on them a little bit to help elevate the content that was being built. Literally day after day, there was new content being published. So we leveraged them, and they were happy to help us get that out in their social media channels, as well as their within their own organization and colleagues. So I don't think it gave us more visibility, but it did people came to us very, very quickly to help get that message out. So that means that we're doing our job, that we were one of their, go-to channels to help elevate the message.
It's a good segue to a question I wanted to ask. Like, are your teams responsible directly for the content development that goes into your hubs, or are you dependent upon and want the dependence on other groups to bring that content to you?
We depend heavily on other groups to bring it to us.
Yeah.
There's different needs across our organization, and we're happy to fill all of those needs. So we're kind of that go-to channel, so we can fill that and source their needs pretty quickly.
Erica,
yeah, well, going back to the visibility question, our hub has been visible for the last year and a half as we've been piloting and standing it up. But I think in this time, we were one of the first teams that our senior leaders came to. And one of the great things that came out of that was we recruited a few of our advocates from the hub to actually hold internal sessions with our marketing and sales and product teams very early during this crisis to teach us what we should and should not be doing during this in the marketplace, what not to say to them, when not to overwhelm them, what they really need, and how to reduce that noise for them, and how to even pivot our products so that they fit the moment. So that was really interesting, and I think a lot of senior leaders saw a new value for the hub during this time, just in bringing that message into our teams.
Absolutely. So does your group have a voice of the customer program, or this program is that?
This program really is that. I mean, we've always done surveys and focus groups and all of those things. We had an old community in the past, but Influitive has really been a great place for us to keep a pulse on what's going on, to read the room, to get quick feedback on everything. And that's definitely something we're starting to circulate with the product teams and the marketing teams, that they can use this and our advocates as a resource.
That's fantastic. How are you thinking of programmatizing that as far as that customer to product team interaction? Is you going to get into a regular rhythm of getting that feedback?
We're hoping to. We've done a few like lunch and learns and different things to really get the word out. And I think that going through COVID and this experience of seeing how helpful and useful this is, we'll be able to put a great program in place after this.
Fantastic. Let's, is there anything else you'd like to add around just obviously we're all working from home, or maybe not everyone, but we are as a company, we're 100% remote, and we have been since March. Beyond that, how has your day-to-day operations changed over these past few months? Maybe Amy, if you want to start with you.
Well, honestly, I would say that the day-to-day operations really haven't changed that much. I mean, it's more, the focus has shifted certainly onto COVID, promoting COVID information. But really, I mean, our mission is the same, to support our advocates and our clients, and make sure that we're giving an equal push and pull of information. So really, my job is the same. I'm just making sure that I am evolving to meet their needs, to meet the evolving needs, I would say.
And I agree with you, Amy, 100%. The focus of what we do with our hub hasn't changed. We have become a little bit more agile as the information is coming in so quickly. We're turning it around probably a little bit quicker than we once were, because we want to make sure that it's top of mind and available for our client contacts as soon as it's ready. And obviously, we're a couple months into this now, and so the focus for our clients has changed to some degree, right? Some of our clients are getting ready to return to work, or maybe some of them are going back into work. So we've got, we've got some very smart people at ADP putting together checklists and material and content. So we want to make sure that we can be agile and we can place that content within our hub as soon as it's ready. So we have to be agile with the times.
Sure. Amy?
Yeah, I think from our perspective at Cengage, we share responsibility for the hub, so we always collaborate on everything that's going on there and moving them through that journey from new user all the way through to becoming a vocal advocate for our company. But I think we very quickly realized that we had to change a few things about how we were managing the hub. We have a content calendar, and we sort of build it out a week in advance, and through this, that sort of wasn't possible anymore. We had to move very quickly during each day to make sure they had what they needed as things were being produced by our content teams for our blog and our Today's Learner site. We had to make sure that went up in a really, timely manner. We took down a lot of our fun or, fluffier coffee break challenges in the beginning because that wasn't what they wanted to do. They didn't have the extra time to engage with us that way. So we did a lot of that and, really just kind of refocused. Annie, what else?
I think we're just even closer to our customers now. We all were going through this together with how do we go online and how does this work as a company and with all of our customers and all the new customers that we now have. And now as we're approaching fall, this back to school season is even crazier than ever. And we're working harder to get the resources that they need, and they're coming to us more to get those resources. So I think we've built a stronger trust, and we're just trying to keep up with that demand.
I think that's a really good point, Annie. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
but this time in our lives has really made those personal connections even more important. And I think we've been able to apply empathy in a way that we hadn't done before. So I think it has gotten us closer. I think just as, between our client contacts and even, even our peers, quite frankly. So I think that was an important call out, Annie. Thank you.
It really was. And I think one example of that, we, as we started to add back in some of the more, the peer building connection type content, one of our most popular challenges in early June was National Say Something Nice Day. And they were able to connect with each other and lift each other's spirits up. And we were able to join in that with them and really kind of build up everyone's, reserves of happiness. So it serves that.
Idea.
Yeah, it reserves, it's a wonderful time to also serve that up to them and not just bombard them with tips and tricks or things they might need. That's great. But also just that human element can come through.
You touched on it about taking down some content that you thought was maybe a little inappropriate at the time. And I wanted to understand what content has changed, because I could see both sides of it. Sometimes maybe early on, the fun stuff, maybe what didn't feel right. But then at the other side of it is maybe they need a break and they want to get away from it all and they want some of that fun stuff. So how do you balance that? Do you just ask?
Yeah, we asked, we saw what was going on in discussions, and it was a lot of stress about time and not having enough time to get what they need. So we wanted to clear the clutter, but also looking at what challenges were performing, what the social shares were, and it wasn't all the fun things. It was everything about COVID. Now we have gone and started to ramp up the fun ones and like the nice challenge Erica was saying as we go. But like Tristy was saying, being agile is just so important right now.
Right.
Yeah, and I think you had to find that balance, right? There was, to your point, Annie, there was a lot of noise very early on, and we were all tasked to do something that none of us had ever done before, whether it was teaching at home, and it was just a lot. It was a lot to consume. So it was finding that balance, and once we started bringing things like that back in, we even started aligning our rewards with kind of where we were. Do you want to talk about that, Amy, real quick?
No, I was just agreeing with you that the first thing that popped in my head too was our rewards. We started lining those up, with grocery delivery cards and Walmart and Target and things that people really needed at the time. So, and I think that our advocates really appreciated that.
That's great. Anything on the rewards catalog side for Cengage?
We have ramped up our giving to charities rewards that perform pretty well during this, and a lot of giving back to their students rewards. So pizza parties for their students and things like that toward the end of the semester really resonated well with them. you know, faculty are the greatest, and they want to make sure their students are taken care of. And they were also trying to manage their students' emotional well-beings, trying to finish up that semester and amid all the chaos. So I think anything that had to do with supporting students was really key right there.
Well, it's a good segue to the question around how are you helping your customers or your members in these uncertain times? So maybe if anyone would like to elaborate on that a little bit more.
Well, one thing we did, and it goes back to that real-time feedback moment, was when this started happening that first week in mid-March, we thought 2 or 3 universities were going to close in Washington State. And we went, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? How are we going to help them? And then by the end of the week, it was nearly every higher ed institution was closing or going online in some way. It happened that quickly. And we were able to stand up a webinar for faculty to quickly transition by that Friday because of our access to these folks in the hub. So we had an advocate from the hub who has special training in teaching online and designing online learning classes help us. And we had around 2,500 faculty members nationwide, customers and non-customers, attend to just try to help them in that moment. So that was a real, we were stunned by how our advocates gave back to us in that moment. So, you know, that was one really nice example of what's come from this. Annie, do you want to talk?
Yeah, we could also just see what questions they were asking one another. And I think we became a spot where they could come and get advice and share resources and just vent. And then we were able to use those questions they were asking to build resources, because there was just never ending questions on how do you do this? How do you support your students and keep your classes going? And so we did the best we could to keep up with that.
Yeah. How about with ADP?
Sorry, I just
I think maybe
a little bit
you
there.
take this one. Not sure.
Oh, bloopers. No, I think it was kind of the same thing, right? Again, there was so much content being built and things were changing on a day-to-day basis that what we found was our advocates actually gave back to us in a way that was pretty amazing, because they were sharing. They felt that the content that we had was important enough that they could share within their, their social networks with their colleagues. But they helped us get the word out about all of the tools that ADP had created, not just for our clients, but anyone in the HCM space. All of these tools are available to, some of our non-clients as well. So they helped us elevate information that was going to help anyone in the human capital management space. I think that was a true testament of them going above and beyond for us during this time.
Yeah, and we actually, when we pulled the data after the first few months, we noticed that our social shares actually increased during this time, but the type of content they were sharing also changed. So they were sharing out those 4 tips for, grading this very quickly or adjusting your assignment due dates or something. And they were finding those very worthy of sharing out to their networks, which I consider a privilege when they want to share something we've created out to their Facebook or their Twitter followers. So that was that made us feel that we had the right content, and it was a loop. It was a loop the whole time. They were telling us what they needed, we were then providing it, and then that was just one measure that sort of told us we were on the right track with what we were giving them. So
yeah, well said. Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, it's very energizing and gratifying talking with customers directly and hearing their advice, their critiques, and just getting that feedback is just really uplifting, and especially if in an authentic fashion.
Yeah, so I talked about this briefly, but I think as you're establishing a program, or even if your program is a little bit older, being agile is really, really important. You need to be able to pivot very quickly. We've seen this and experienced this, but there are times where you're just going to have to do that. And I think having that methodology while still planning for what you want to do later on is really important, and that's going to get you, you'll get success that way. So that'd be one thing that I would recommend.
Want to add anything, Amy?
Something else we touched on before too is just striking the right balance and making sure that you're meeting their needs and getting so that we can get what we need from them as well. And when you do that, it's magic.
Great. Annie?
Yeah, we touched on this before, but obviously being as empathetic as possible and putting yourself in their shoes. And just as a tactic, we really found using the discussion board to be helpful, to have kind of a more informal conversation and just really kind of get a pulse of what's going on with our customers.
Yeah, and I would also add, back to that human element, don't be afraid to talk to them like real human beings and not just customers all the time, especially in these times of crisis. I think asking them what they need from you and then doing your best to provide that in a way that minimizes the noise for them.
Mm-hmm.
They can find it clearly. We as very similarly stood up a channel specifically for transitioning to online quickly. So they didn't have to search through. They knew exactly where to go to find that. So asking them and then quickly meeting those needs in an organized, clear way that doesn't waste their time, I guess, you know, they don't have to search a lot for it. Those things really helped us maintain through this. Yeah.
Great. So there are a lot of customers listening in today on this session, but there's also a lot of non-customers that are listening in as well. I'd love for you to just share what advice would you give somebody if they do not have an advocacy program? It doesn't have to be influitive. If you don't have an advocacy program, but you're considering one, what do they do next? What should they do next? Erica.
Well, at Cengage, I'm in charge of all of our faculty advocacy programs. So that includes the All Access Hub, and it also includes a team of faculty partners who are compensated for their time when they go out with our sales and marketing teams or work with our product teams for different projects. So I guess my advice, I sort of grew this program about 4 years ago out of just a few people we called technology power users, right? They loved our products and sales called on them and knew who they were. But I would say tap into your sales teams, tap into your other arms of your company and find out why they would want to work with an advocate. Show them the benefits they could get from having that peer voice, that customer voice, and then really get some buy-in across those other teams, because it will help you figure out which way you should go, whether it's paid program, whether it's an influitive hub, whether it's just something more informal. Mm-hmm. But I think set your purpose and your goal and then get some buy-in across other parts of your organization, and then just stay organized and stay true to it. And because my advocates, I have about 300 faculty partners above and beyond our 1,500 All Access members. And I feel like they're part of our team, they're part of our family, and treat them as such. Treat them as part of your team, and they will respond.
That's outstanding. Tristy or Amy, would you like to share for ADP?
Sure. So I'm going to piggyback a little bit on what Erica had mentioned as well, but I think it is tapping into the businesses that you support within your organization and understanding what they're trying to achieve, what their goals are, whether it's sales or marketing, product owners, because you really can help each one of those business units by leveraging an advocacy program in terms of efficiency as well. So you're taking out a lot of the legwork of sending emails and trying to source feedback, and that might take a long time or multiple touch points. But what we've found is we're able to launch a challenge right away, and we've saved hours of work from our product teams or even our service teams. So you can really drive efficiencies as well. Sourcing client feedback is really important, but driving the efficiencies internally is also important, and you can support that through an advocacy program. So I think that's where I would add.
Well, we don't need any more uncertainty or upheaval in this world, but it sounds like you've certainly adapted very well to this change, and you're ready for the next big thing to happen, if it does happen, and hopefully it doesn't happen. Ladies, I want to thank you so much for your time. You've done a wonderful job. We appreciate it and hope you enjoy the rest of the show, and same to everybody out there as well. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, it's Q&A time. Start asking your questions below.